Welcome to AnimalZone, where the wildlife is wild and the critters are really cool. And the conservationists are even cooler, kind of like the other side of a pillow. Today we're going to find out all about wildlife from the Nevada Department of Wildlife. But before we get wild, it's time to have a quick couple of messages, and we'll be right back here on AnimalZone.
Every year, Care for Paws provides access to veterinary care, pet food, and other critical resources for thousands of families in need along California's Central Coast. Our goal is to reduce pet overpopulation and improve pet family welfare by creating safety nets that keep cats and dogs healthy, out of shelters, and with the people who love them. We cannot do our work without the community's support. Please visit careforpaws.org today to find out how you can make a positive impact.
Well, welcome to AnimalZone. We're coming to you from the Nevada Department of Wildlife, and joining us is the Educator Conservationist, or the Conservationist Educator, Doug Nielsen. Doug, so nice to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, glad to have you here.
This is an amazing organization, and I didn't realize that you date back fairly far in the past. When did it start?
We go all the way back to 1877. And that is when the very first office of fish commissioner was created by the state legislature. Mm-hmm. And it was created to address concerns with depleted fisheries and fish populations in northern Nevada, with all of the traffic of people moving from the east to the coast and depending on those fisheries for their sustenance. It wasn't too long before they were overfished.
And what kind of fish were disappearing?
Actually, the big one was the Lahontan cutthroat trout, which are known to grow to very large size. Mm-hmm. And the rivers and things up in northern Nevada actually had a decent population of those fish. We had a gentleman who used to work here that went back in all of the archives of the newspapers of the time, mm-hmm. and was able to find records of people going out and catching fish, and it would talk about how they had such a great day fishing and how many tons of fish they pulled out of some waters. And of course, that's just too much when you're in a desert environment, because they only replenish themselves so fast. So the Office of Fish Commissioner was created to address that situation, and then we've just evolved over time since then.
And did they establish fisheries to raise the population and then replenish them? Was that how?
Well, eventually we did. The irony is the very first fish commissioner brought in carp from Europe, because that's what the Europeans were used to, was carp, and some of those early accounts called them a delicacy. Oh. Today's fishermen won't call them a delicacy, although I had an aunt that could cook them up quite nicely. But now that's one of the ways that carp ended up in Nevada waters. Of course, we learned through time and research, right? And so now we do have fish hatcheries that raise trout. Some of them we use to replace the Lahontan cutthroat trout, which was the main fish up in the northern part of the state. Mm-hmm. But we also raise rainbow trout and things for recreational fisheries as well.
And how are things looking today as far as populations?
Well, things are definitely on the uptick. With Lahontan cutthroat trout, we have a lot of programs where we're going into the native waters and removing some of those fish that were not native to the area and replacing them with Lahontan cutthroat trout, so they're back in their native streams. We do a lot of that work.
So from the world of aquatic creatures, then, mm-hmm. you got into more wildlife, such as like this beautiful creature behind you.
Yeah, this is a desert bighorn sheep. It's a ram. He's affectionately known as Spots. I don't know who named him that. It goes way back. He was actually reared in a captivity on the Desert National Wildlife Refuge at the Corn Creek Station, and lived his full life there. Mm-hmm. This age is, everybody disagrees a little bit on aging these things. It's quite a science to do that, but probably around 11 to 12 years old that he lived his life, and he's quite the specimen. And we're lucky to have him in our office where people can see him.
And can you see bighorn sheep around Nevada?
We actually have 3 species of bighorn sheep in Nevada. Rocky Mountain bighorns, which are found up near in the northeastern area, the Ruby Mountains and Mount Moriah.
Oh, yeah.
We have California bighorn, which are over in the northwestern portion of the state. And the rest of us are desert bighorns. And we actually have the largest population of desert bighorn sheep in the continental U.S.
I had no idea.
It's massive. So and most of those are in southern Nevada. And so from Las Vegas, within an hour, you can easily see bighorn sheep if you're patient, you're willing to do the walk. We do have one place in Boulder City, though, where you can actually drive your car and walk just a short ways and sit under the shade and watch them up close.
Wow. And then I noticed we have a bear behind us.
Nevada does have a significant bear population for the habitat that we have. They're generally found up in that Reno Carson area along the Sierra Nevada front, and some of those adjacent mountain ranges.
Huh. So what's the most prevalent wildlife you have? Would it be deer or rattlesnakes or what?
Well, what's interesting, Arthur, is we have people that move here and they go out on a hike and they see, as you mentioned, a rattlesnake, and they are afraid, and they immediately call their homeowners association and complain that they saw a rattlesnake because they didn't think there was wildlife in Nevada. But even though, and here, of course, we're in the Mojave Desert, central and northern Nevada roll into the Great Basin. So they're 2 different ecosystems. But here in the Las Vegas area, in the Mojave, we do have wildlife. What I tell people is the only animal to be out during the heat of the summer, though, is us. We're the only animal dumb enough to do that. Everything else is really active at night. So people might come here and not see anything, thinking there's not, but we've got quite a bit of wildlife here.
I would think the only wildlife in Las Vegas was at night along the strip.
Wildlife, 2 words?
Yes.
Yeah.
But when you, actually speaking of Las Vegas, do you ever have wildlife that just journeys into the central area in the city at all?
Oh, we have wildlife that lives among us all of the time. And one of the challenges for us as a wildlife agency is what we call urban wildlife or human wildlife conflict. And by that, I mean the population of people in Las Vegas is made up of folks from a lot of different parts of the country, most of them very urban, that seek a warmer climate, maybe to retire or just looking for a new beginning, and not realizing that in those urban environments they came from, there was wildlife, they just didn't know it was there. Now they come here and they see a coyote or a fox or a snake, and it's really unnerving for them. And so they call us. They're either concerned for the animal or concerned of or afraid of the animal. And so we have to spend some time with a little bit of psychology, kind of walking them back off the ledge, if you will, because we have to recognize that their fears are real to them.
Yes.
Where, I grew up with coyotes walking through camp, so it wasn't a big deal. But for people who aren't used to coyotes and seeing that, it's unnerving for them. So we need to help them understand and overcome their lack of knowledge a little bit, and that's where education comes in.
Yeah, and now with your educational programs, do you go into schools or into special groups?
Oh, we have such a wide variety of offerings in our educational programs. We teach people how to fish. We teach people how to live with wildlife. And so in our urban wildlife arena, we actually go into the community. We seek out opportunities to teach people how to live with wildlife, what they can do to minimize the chance of an unpleasant encounter. And speaking of rattlesnakes, how to tell the difference between a rattlesnake and a gopher snake, because a gopher snake is really a good thing.
We love gopher snakes. They do wonderful things. If you have any you'd like to loan us, we'd take them back to California.
Yeah. So, but people, even though say they find a rattlesnake in their yard, they don't have to fear it and break out the shovel.
Right.
It can be moved a short distance away into an open space and let it go on its merry way, because they have a role to play in in the environment.
Absolutely. Well, we have to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to learn a little bit more about rattlesnakes and maybe some of the more unusual animals that you personally have run into out here in the beautiful desert.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back after these words.
Hey, take a look at these loving animals that you can adopt today. And don't worry, if someone beats you to the shelter, there are plenty more wonderful animals ready to find you and their forever home.
Whether they're explorers or sidekicks, loungers or balls of energy, all animals deserve love and a second chance. With donors like you, Santa Barbara Humane provides affordable, high-quality veterinary care, dog training, and adoption in Santa Maria and Santa Barbara. Vital Safety Net programs support all animals. To schedule an appointment for your pet or to donate to help more, visit sbhumane.org or call 805-964-4777.
And we're back here on AnimalZone in beautiful Nevada, and we're especially pleased to be with Doug Nielsen, who is the Conservation Educational Director of the Nevada Department of Wildlife here in Central Nevada. I mean, you're basically you're in Las Vegas, right?
Based out of Las Vegas, we're in what we call the Southern Administrative Region, where the state's divided into three.
Right.
And our region covers the southern 4 counties, which is essentially the southern half of the state because our counties are so large.
Yeah. We were earlier talking about things like rattlesnakes.
Mm-hmm.
And some people have a great fear of rattlesnakes, especially if they run into them when they're on the trail hiking and suddenly they hear that and
Mm-hmm.
they don't know whether they should run or hide or do whatever. What's your advice when someone runs across a rattlesnake?
Well, the first thing, Arthur, is for people to acknowledge that we have rattlesnakes in the desert and they have a role to play there. The time of year where we feel really comfortable being outside is the same time they feel really comfortable being outside.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of coincide. So if you start seeing lizards on your hikes, there's a real good chance you're going to see snakes of different varieties.
Mm-hmm.
The key with the rattlesnake is if you hear that buzz and it's easily recognizable, stop. Don't take off running. You might run right into it.
No.
So stop, see where it's at, enjoy it from a distance, and then give it a wide berth and let it go his way and you go yours.
That's the snake's warning to stop, right?
Yeah, he's just letting you know, hey, I'm here,
Mm-hmm.
and you're making me a little uncomfortable.
Right.
A couple of years ago, I was on a hike, and the interesting thing, I was actually looking for them because it was a perfect morning for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm walking down a trail and I hear the buzz and I turn around and the thing's 6 feet behind me right on the trail. Now, I don't know whether he was waiting to come across when I walked through or if I stepped over him,
Right.
but it's a speckled rattlesnake and their coloration blends them right in with the substrate, and so I didn't see it. But the long story short is he gave me a warning, I found him, I stepped away, he went into the rocks and did his thing, and I went on my way and did mine.
When they start to curl up and they're rattling and they're raising their heads up, that's kind of like imminent something.
He's telling you to leave him alone. You know,
Yeah.
most rattlesnake bites occur on the hand. Do you know why?
Why?
It's just people messing with them.
Oh, really?
If they just would give them the distance,
Mm-hmm.
and most of us are carrying a cell phone camera, take a picture, go home and enjoy it,
Yeah.
and you'll be good. We have 5 species of rattlesnake in the Las Vegas area, and they each live in a little different area, a little different habitat, though their habitats do overlap some.
I've also heard that the smaller the rattlesnake, the more venomous it is. Is that true?
No.
No.
No, that's one of those things out there, the little babies can't control how much
Venom?
venom they're giving you and all that stuff. But the bottom line is that a baby rattlesnake can inject you and an adult rattlesnake can inject you. And so we just want to do our best to prevent that. So
Right.
the best thing to do is be aware that they're out there. If you're out on a hike and you feel like I need some shade,
Right.
before you sit down, make
Mhm.
sure that there's not a snake or other animal in the shade because they're going to be looking for the shade too.
Another wildlife creature that people are sometimes fearful of are bears. And from what I've seen of bears, most of the time, they're just hungry and they're basically looking for something to eat, and if it happens to be in your garbage can, you may have a visitor. Is that right?
Well, you know, bears are an interesting critter. They're a little bit unpredictable. We don't have any of those here in Las Vegas. All of our bear population is in northwestern Nevada, and tend to be in areas that are with high frequency of human visitation. So one of the things that's important there is for people to keep their trash picked up, make sure they're using bear-proof containers. And with all urban wildlife situations, and including bears wherever you are, don't feed them.
Right.
We have this idea that Mother Nature can't provide, but she provides exactly what's needed.
Yeah.
And then we step in with human food, and then that's when we create problems. So if we do have a problem bear, it's generally associated with human feeding behavior. Down here, we have had in recent years some coyote bites. Those are generally associated with people trying to hand feed them.
Oh.
And it doesn't take them long to habituate to the point that, hey, this person is going to feed me. I'm going to go get something to eat. And then if they don't get fed, then they're a little bit out of joint. You know what I mean? So
like the gamblers on the strip, right?
Really. So the thing for us to do is not feed wildlife. I know it's real popular for people who want to feed birds, but understand this: if you use a bird feeder, say you're using seeds. I've watched birds eat. They're not clean. They kind of throw seeds everywhere. Now that's on the ground. So guess what that attracts?
Squirrels.
That attracts the squirrels and the mice and the rats, the rodents. And guess what? That eats the things that eat those. Because in nature we have some animals eat plant material and some animals eat other animals. That's the reality of how it works. And so as we feed and we create this mini food cycle, we actually create the problem.
So the main thing is stay out of the way of wildlife. Let wildlife be wild.
That's it. If we can just get people, let wildlife be wild, enjoy them from a distance. You know, with today's binoculars, spotting scopes, cell phone cameras, you can enjoy so much and you know, take a picture and go home. And we don't have to feel that we have to replace Mother Nature. She's pretty good at doing her job.
Those are very wise words, and I hope our viewers will take this in, because this is really what we try to do, is help people realize how they can live in harmony with nature, in harmony with pets too.
Yeah, it really comes down to respect, and that respect is not only for the creatures themselves, but for the habitat, the system in which they have evolved and in which they live. Each time we change the habitat, whether it's for our own house, for a freeway, for a park, we change what lives there or how they live there. So what we can do in Las Vegas, in your earlier question, do we have animals here? Yes, we have them right in town. We have had coyotes and foxes right on the strip, and with all the water that has been put in, we have lots of waterfowl, and so there's a lot of chance for human interaction and enjoyment. But even though they're in town, we still need to give them that respect to let Mother Nature do their job. They'll find their way. The problems start when we step in and start feeding them or trying to corral them, and then we have issues.
That's great, Doug. Well, we're going to have to take another break, but we're going to be speaking with Lauren, who is one of your educators here at the Department of Wildlife. So thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Absolutely.
And we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after these words.
Hey, take a look at these loving animals that you can adopt today. And don't worry, if someone beats you to the shelter, there are plenty more wonderful animals ready to find you and their forever home.
Welcome back here on AnimalZone, and we are talking now with Lauren, who is the Wildlife Educational Coordinator. And Lauren, so nice to have you here, and we have a lot of activity taking place behind us. Are these some of the images that you deal with when you're out there talking about wildlife?
Yeah, I would say so. A lot of what's shown on this screen is various clips from showcasing some of the projects that are ongoing throughout the state of Nevada, whether it's conservation-related projects to sustain bighorn sheep or mule deer populations, or some of it is some of our volunteer opportunities that we take volunteers from the public to help us with some of those projects and do some education around the community as well.
And when you take education into the community, is it into schools, universities, special interest groups?
It's a wide variety of all of those things. For the most part, we focus on, the local community and bringing people outside, whether it's on guided hikes to learn about the bird populations in the area, or in the classroom. We can go to various student classrooms and do curriculum-based education to kind of enforce the concepts of wildlife education into curriculum that teachers can work with to ensure that the students are meeting those same standards too.
What do you find is the biggest misconceptions from students when you're talking with them about wildlife?
I think that, as Doug spoke to it earlier, there is some fears with the unknown. And I think that especially with some of those larger animals or some of those bitey animals like rattlesnakes, students might generally have a fear of some of those animals they might not have had personal encounters with, or, whether there's some misconceptions from some of the movies or shows that they've seen regarding those animals as well. And so a lot of what we do is just trying to reinforce the concepts that, we share habitat with a lot of the beautiful wildlife that you can find all over our state. And we want to ensure that there's some sort of spark of interest and appreciation for that wildlife so that we can, ensure future conservation efforts.
What's the most unusual wildlife that you've personally encountered?
I would say the most unusual is probably a Gila monster.
A Gila monster? I thought they were only in the movies.
Yeah, those are one of our most elusive reptiles we have out here. They generally spend about 90% of their lives underground in their burrows. So really, you're only going to see them maybe in the spring, early summer when they're coming out to mate or feed, reproduce. But generally, they know where it's hot and where it's not, and so they stay underground, but they are the only venomous lizard that we have in Nevada too.
Oh. So they look kind of like iguanas? Are they big like that? Or?
They're rather large. Yeah, they can get over a foot long, and they have really beautiful red and black patterning on them. Their pattern is actually really unique to each individual, to the point where our biologists can actually identify individual Gila monsters based on that specific pattern that's on their back. It almost serves as a fingerprint for them.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, you look but do not touch.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah. That's one of those animals where if you are, going to get medical care because you've been bitten by a Gila monster, it's likely because you were doing something to try to get bitten by a Gila monster.
Yeah. So humans have to really take care. As we learned earlier, let wildlife be wildlife.
Yeah.
Keep it wild.
Absolutely.
So when you're out there, you obviously are dealing with waterfowl, with fish, with so many different kinds of species. Which species do you find the most interesting for you personally, and how do you sort of summarize that animal?
Yeah, I would say to me personally, I might lean toward the desert bighorn sheep. And I think that's because it is an animal that there are areas where you can see them more frequently, and then other areas where it can be a really special experience to see them. One of those areas in Boulder City we may have mentioned is Hemingway Park, where there's kind of a local urban herd that comes down to that park for that nice, easy access to water and shade, especially during those warmer months, so they can seek a little bit of comfort from the hot desert. And so you can go there and almost guarantee a sighting of a herd of bighorn sheep during the summer months there, which is really fascinating. And then there's other areas where you might see bighorn sheep, and it's a really special and unique experience. You know, I've seen them on several occasions in Red Rock Canyon. For a while, there was a ewe I was watching out there, and over time saw her raising her lambs in one of the local canyons in Red Rock. And it was really neat. You know, every other week I'd go out there, you know, doing my own various recreational activities, and got to kind of witness this bystander observation.
I mean, Red Rock is such a spectacular area to explore, and it's so close to Las Vegas. It's kind of really just at one of the foots of Las Vegas in a way, and suddenly you're up in these incredible rocks and beautiful serene surroundings.
Yeah.
But to have wildlife there too is really quite an experience.
It really is.
Someone
yeah.
wants something totally different experience when they come to Las Vegas.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think people are oftentimes surprised by how much of the natural landscape you can actually experience just outside of the city.
Is there a site that people can go to learn more about animal welfare and how to deal with certain species?
Yeah, absolutely. We have on our website, ndow.org, it's ndow.org, we have an entire page titled Living with Wildlife. Oh. And that does give a lot of tips and tricks, especially when it comes to wildlife encounters in urban settings, so that people can kind of familiarize themselves with what to expect and how to handle certain situations or encounters.
Well, Lauren, this has been so helpful and so educational. I really appreciate you sharing some tales about tales.
Yeah.
And hope you'll be back on AnimalZone in the future.
Great, thank you for having me.
We're going to take a break and a little more AnimalZone coming up right after this.
Wildlife baby season starts March 1st. Here are some of our tips for protecting wildlife this baby season. Please protect nests by waiting until September to trim your trees. Keep an eye on your pets to make sure they don't disturb nesting babies or their parents. Please avoid rodenticides and pesticides and use more humane options for pest control. Always call your local wildlife rehabilitation center before capturing orphaned wildlife babies. Thank you!
Weren't those some amazing four-footed creatures? And they're two-footed caretakers. Those of you who adopt and foster rescue animals, you're the real heroes. And you know what? Those animals give you the greatest gift of all, the gift of unconditional love. If you want to know more about animal adoptions and animal experts, please go to our website, animalzone.org, and I hope you'll join us next time, right here on AnimalZone.
Never was a friend so true. Never was a friend like you. Canine, you're my best friend. Canine of mine, friend for all time. So glad you're my best friend. Through thick and thin, we'll see things through. Canine of mine, so true. Did I find you or did you find me? Either way, it's still serendipity. When I saw you, it was plain to see you weren't just another lassie wannabe. Oh, canine of mine, friend for all time. I'm so glad you're my best friend.